What if I told you that the story we've all been taught about how our brains are built is fundamentally wrong? Well, a recent, absolutely groundbreaking discovery has completely flipped our understanding of this process on its head. It points to a hidden architect, a single, really unlikely player that changes everything we thought we knew.
For decades, right, the story of how our brains develop has been pretty straightforward. It's that neat, tidy chapter you probably remember from your high school biology class. But what if that story was missing one of its main characters? Turns out there's a much deeper, way more interesting plot that's just now being uncovered. You see, the old story was simple. A few big-shot master genes acted like generals, barking orders from the top down to build the brain. But the new reality? Oh, it's so much more fascinating than that. It's not some simple chain of command. It's a huge, tangled, interconnected web of players, and a lot of them have been hiding in plain sight this whole time. So, to find these missing players, scientists did something incredible. They launched a massive search. Using the power of CRISPR gene editing, they went on what was basically a genome-wide manhunt, systematically switching off thousands of genes in neural stem cells, one by one, just to see which ones were absolutely essential for building a neuron. And the results were just staggering. They found 331 genes that were absolutely crucial to the process. 331. But here's the thing. Among all of those, one in particular just jumped off the page, a gene called PEDS1. Its role was so critical it was a total game changer. Now, what makes this whole thing so cool is that PEDS1 was a completely unlikely suspect. I mean, it wasn't one of the usual suspects at all, not one of those master genes everyone expected to find. In the great mystery of brain development, this was the character you would never ever guess was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Okay, so what exactly is PEDS1? Here's the twist. It's not a gene that directly bosses other genes around. Nope, it's an enzyme. Its whole job is to help build a very specific kind of fat, a lipid, called a plasmalogen. And as you're about to see, its incredible power comes from controlling the supply of this one single building material. Which of course leads to the next big question. We know PEDS1 is the enzyme making this stuff, but what in the world is a plasmalogen? And why is it so ridiculously important that the entire construction of our brain depends on it? Well, plasmalogens are basically the unsung heroes of your brain's architecture. They're this special type of fat that makes up a massive chunk, 20% of the myelin sheet that protects and insulates your neurons. Think of them as the brain's Swiss Army knife. They shield cells from damage, they keep cell membranes nice and flexible for communication, and they're absolutely essential for firing signals across your synapses. Without them, the whole system just grinds to a halt. Let's think of it like an assembly line for building a brain. You've got raw materials coming in one end, but the entire line can only move as fast as its most important step. PEDS1 is that step. It performs one single critical conversion. If PEDS1 slows down or stops working, the entire production of plasmalogens just stops dead, and you simply cannot build healthy neurons. Period. So here's the crucial idea. PEDS1 acts as the metabolic gatekeeper. It doesn't need to shout orders at other genes. It just controls the flow of a vital resource. By opening or closing the gate on plasmalogen production, it effectively controls the pace and even the success of the entire brain development process. It's a really elegant system, but it's also incredibly fragile. So you have to ask, what happens when this essential gatekeeper fails at its job? The consequences are, well, they're dramatic. When PEDS1 isn't working right, the supply of neuroprogenitors, those are the stem cells that actually build the brain, it gets severely depleted. They basically stop dividing and they try to turn into neurons way too early, long before there are enough of them to build a properly sized brain. And the devastating result of this whole cellular crisis is a condition called microcephaly, where the brain ends up being abnormally small. The failure of this one metabolic gate leads directly to a catastrophic failure in the brain's entire architecture.
And this, right here, is the huge paradigm shift. We used to think of control in terms of these gene bosses, genes that directly order other genes around. But this discovery reveals a whole new kind of power, metabolic gating. Quietly controlling the supply of one vital resource that everything else depends on. PEDS1 proves that metabolism isn't just some background noise. It is a powerful architect of who we are.
And the implications here are huge. They go way beyond just this one gene. We're now realizing that plasmalogen problems are linked to all sorts of other conditions, from rare genetic disorders all the way to some forms of Alzheimer's disease. Finding PEDS1 doesn't just solve one mystery. It gives us a vital new clue for diagnosing a whole host of other conditions that were previously unexplained.
You know, with this new understanding comes new hope. This discovery is opening up entirely new possibilities for therapies. If we can find a way to bypass that broken step in the assembly line, maybe through nutritional supplements or even with gene therapy, we might actually be able to treat some of these devastating disorders.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's this powerful idea that the secrets to building something as complex as the human brain, they aren't always where we think to look. True mastery, true control, often lies hidden away in these quiet, unexpected metabolic corners of our cells. And that leaves us with one final, exciting question. What other hidden architects are still out there, just waiting to be discovered?